Hey, Stephen Yanni here in the junkyard doing the junkyard crawl, and today let's talk about Studebaker trucks. It's often forgotten that Studebaker was building vehicles for a good 50 years before Henry Ford even picked up a wrench. They started building wagons in 1852 and were building one vehicle or another type until 1963 here in the States in South Bend, Indiana, and of course in Canada up till 1966. But this is a classic 1950s Studebaker pickup truck. It's a pre-54, it's got a two-piece windshield, and under the hood we're probably going to see a six-cylinder engine, and there it is. This is a pretty typical Studebaker pickup of the day. That's the Flathead 6, a very small engine, but again, pickup trucks back then were far from the Cummins diesels, the Power Strokes that we know of today. This one has the basic vacuum windshield wipers. You paid a little extra for electric wipers. The only downside with vacuum wipers is that when you hit the gas pedal, like pulling through an intersection on a foggy day, they slow down. Right when you need them, the engine loses vacuum and they slow down. But anyway, that was the standard stuff. It does have the heater, which was extra cost, but there it is, that big six-cylinder engine. Now this one is a one-ton pickup truck. You could get Studebaker lightweight champs with a half-ton light-duty suspension, but this one here, we know it's a one-tonner. It's got the artillery-type wheels. These are made by Bud, and these are massive split-rim wheels. And yeah, that's the kind of wheel right there that if you're not careful when mounting and dismounting, they can split and send you through the roof. But again, if you're doing it right, no big deal. It's swap places. We'll open the door on this thing and look inside. So we're not going to find a Bluetooth or an air conditioner or anything like that. This is a very, very basic truck, as they all were. But there is 3-speed manual transmission on the steering column, and no radio in this one. Radios were just becoming options, but in the center of the dashboard, that little shield sticking out, that is the dashboard light, which was an option. So I guess if you want to do some paperwork or whatever it might be, that little lamp would illuminate and help you out. But again, this was somebody's work truck way back when, a one-tonner. And we go to the rear axle on this thing. We can see it right through. This one's had a box bed, but that right there is the worm drive style rear axle seen on the one-tonners. I mean, massive stuff. One thing that's a little weird on this one is the axle is over the leaf springs rather than under the leaf springs, which is a more typical scenario on trucks. But that said, this was a workhorse. Look how many leaves there are on those leaf springs. Looks like freaking 12 leaves on these things. So this was big, but you know what? It gets even bigger. This thing right here. This is a 4-ton Studebaker truck. Now this one's probably about a 55 or so, has a one-piece windshield, and under the hood of this one, let's have a peek and see. Yeah, V8 power, oh yes. Now the V8 Studebaker arrived in 1951, I believe 239 cubic inches. This is a 2-barrel, but look how the manifold has this machined flat on it right down here. The same manifold could be machined for either a 2- or 4-barrel carburetor. That's how frugal Studebaker was with their efforts back in the day. Now this truck here is almost certainly a 1957. I say that because the grille is right here, and it's plastic. Check this out. 1957 was during the time when Studebaker and Packard had merged, and while you would think that it would make both companies stronger, it actually made Studebaker much weaker. So there was no money for facelifts, so they did these fiberglass, or actually Royalite plastic grills right here, and it would go on the front, and that way Studebaker could use the same basic sheet metal but make it look kind of newer. These arrived in 1957, and again, this is plastic. It's not fiberglass. If we look at it real close, we'll see there's no hair. This is probably Royalite, which was the same type of stuff that was used on a lot of truck cabs in the 60s. And again, our magnet doesn't stick. Here's the magnet right here. Not going to stick. Again, a plastic grill. So, modern Ford trucks have aluminum cabs and beds. Well, Studebaker was using plastic on the grills back in 57. Inside this one is the same cab, basically, as that 1-ton pickup truck. These cabs were made for Studebaker by Bud in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. And of course, Bud was a subcontractor to many Detroit automakers, although of course Studebaker was from South Bend, Indiana, but you get the point. In fact, every 55 through 57 Ford Thunderbird 2-seater, the body was made by Bud for Ford. And likewise, These cabs were built under license by Bud for Studebaker. Now, this one is also a manual transmission, probably a 5-speed. And this truck, being a little heavier, has the air seat, Bostrom right there. This is a spring-loaded seat right here. This is for over-the-road use. And the name Bostrom might be familiar to people who own Jeeps or 68 Hemi Darts. Well, Bostrom makes seats for everyone, including Studebaker. And there's that Studebaker VIN tag. Now, this truck is a dually. Look at the rear axle right there. We see 4 tires on the rear axle, a full floating axle, probably a 4 or 5 ton truck. But again, Studebaker would make trucks until about 1961. And then, of course, as the operations wound down, the final Studebaker car being built in South Bend, Indiana on December 20th, 1963. And that's when truck production was certainly over too. Passenger cars, however, the Lark and the Cruiser were still built in Canada, but no trucks in Canada. So that's the story of the Studebaker half-ton or 1-ton and 5-ton pickup trucks and stake trucks here in the junkyard. The thing I love about this place is that everywhere you turn, there's something to learn about. And you know, the junkyard is far more than a junkyard, it's also a classroom. So if you like this video, be sure to subscribe to the Steve Magnanti YouTube channel. There's lots more where this came from.